Chapter 134. Wuming adapted what he had experienced and told Ilya the adventure story of an ordinary person. When he finished, it was almost evening. It's already so late. Let's go back, Ilya. Wuming patted Ilya's head. Okay. Ilya and Wuming held hands and walked out of the amusement park together. On the way, Ilya revealed a happy expression. Big brother, your experience is really good, amazing. Big brother, are you an adventurer? Ilya asked. Kind of. I like to travel around. In an instant, Ilya revealed an envious and yearning expression. That's great. Mama Sila doesn't let me do anything exciting. I really envy Big brother. After hearing Ilya's words, Wuming patted Ilya's head and smiled. This is because Sila has to think about your safety. Adventure is not a simple thing. It's full of danger everywhere. That's why I said that you should just be a good primary school student. Ilya, whose head was patted by Wuming, turned her little head unhappily. I know. Seeing Ilya like this, Wuming smiled. If there's a chance next time, I'll take you on an adventure, Ilya. Ilya's expression changed from depressed to expectant. Really? That's great. Ilya hugged Wuming happily. Then while the two chatted, Wuming and Ilya arrived in front of the house of Einstein Barons. At the corner not far in front of the house, a tomboy was looking here. Bazette. Wuming narrowed his eyes. Originally, Wuming wanted to cook dinner at Ilya's house according to her wishes, but Bazette's arrival seemed to indicate that something had happened. Sorry, Ilya. I just remembered that I have something important to do. I can't go to your house. You can go back first. They had clearly arrived at Ilya's doorstep, but Wuming said that he had something to do. However, Ilya wasn't an unreasonable person. In her opinion, since Big Brother said that there was something, then there must be something. And alright then. Goodbye, Big Brother. You must come again next time. After waving goodbye to Ilya, Wuming walked to Bazette's seat. Did something happen? Wuming asked. Bazette simply nodded and said, The card you gave me has been discovered. Wuming was stunned for a moment, then he said, It's Zelik, right? Bazette nodded again. Yes. Wuming shook his head in surprise. That old man is quite impressive. Just how many parallel worlds has he connected to? Wuming smiled and mumbled to himself. Bazette didn't say anything. First, it was because Bazette couldn't understand what Wuming said. Second, even if Bazette could understand, it had nothing to do with her. She was only here to pass on the message. That sir has asked you to go, Bazette said. Understood. I'll go now. After saying that, Wuming opened the teleportation gate and walked in under Bazette's shocked gaze. Suddenly, Wuming's head stretched out from the pitch-black and red teleportation gate. Do you want to come together? Bazette was silent, but he still looked at Wuming with a look of resistance. Wuming faintly smiled and grabbed Bazette. Wah! Bazette let out a panicked scream. Far away on the other side of the continent, in the upper floor of the clock tower in England, outside Zelika's door, a pitch-black and red teleportation gate appeared. Wuming pulled Bazette's arm and walked out of the teleportation gate. You're really clumsy, Wuming commented. Bazette's face was a little red as he stared fiercely at Wuming. In response to Bazette's stare, Wuming shrugged and then walked into Zelika's room. Bang! Following the sound of the door closing, only Bazette was left in the hallway. After tidying up his clothes, Bazette left as well. In the room, Wuming walked to the sofa and sat down. Finally, he poured himself a cup of tea. You're really self-conscious, Hyenryong. The old man sitting on the chair in the dim room laughed. It's your face every time. Even if you don't find it annoying, I do. Wuming looked at Zelik with disdain. Ha ha ha, I was a popular man when I was young. Zelik laughed. Wuming understood the old man's character. He couldn't help it. He met him once in every world. He couldn't not understand him. You know what's going on with the class card, right? Zelik said. Well, after all, this is also something that I contributed to. Wuming took a sip of tea and said, Why, Gem Wuming wants to study it. Just in time, I have a caster class card here. Wuming said as he took out a card. Zelik smiled and said, I'm not interested in this, but some people in the clock tower are interested in the class card, so they sent Mark Remus to collect the class card. What do you mean? Wu Ming asked. I don't have anything that you want. How about this? I'll give you this, and you stop collecting the class card. Later, Zelik took out a suitcase, which seemed to contain very valuable items because the suitcase was surrounded by various charms. Zelik opened the suitcase and revealed the items inside. This is... Wu Ming was surprised. Inside the suitcase was a clay plate, and the clay plate was full of ancient aura. This is the clay plate excavated from the Two Rivers Basin. Not to mention that the clay plate has the quality of a holy relic. It also contains the magic of the gods. It is a rare original magic book. This made Wu Ming think carefully. The original magic book is also a very powerful tool for Wu Ming, and it can also be used as a holy relic. Wu Ming speculated that if he summoned it with his own affinity, it must be the Hero King. Deal. After a while, Wu Ming left Zelika's office. Wu Ming returned to the Shoayu house through the portal. Before that, Wu Ming wanted to give the caster class card to Zelik, but Zelik said, I'll leave it with you first. Since people have said so, Wu Ming will not be unreasonable. According to Zelik, in about a week, Zelik will send people from the clock tower to Winterwood City again. The world of the class cards mentioned by Zelik has been estimated almost a week later, so the rest of the class cards will appear. Zelik asked Wu Ming to help the magician who was sent to recover the cards. First, Zelik didn't want the cards to fall into the hands of the clock tower's higher-ups who were not too good. Second, Zelik hoped to train the magician who was sent. Only the magician who came to support the recovery of the cards. Well, it has nothing to do with me anyway. Wu Ming threw the card casually, and the card fell into the golden ripples. Wu Ming turned and returned to the house. Chapter 135. A week later, Wu Ming sat in the yard and meditated every day. After a while, Wu Ming exhaled softly, and then opened his eyes. All the rank cards have appeared. Wu Ming thought. Because the place where the rank cards appeared was the location of Winterwood City's small spiritual veins, Wu Ming's detection technique near the spiritual veins in Winterwood City had almost been destroyed by the rank cards. This proved that the remaining 4 rank cards had all appeared. Moreover, because Zelik was going, Wu Ming put the caster rank card back in the position next to the Winterwood Bridge, so that the caster rank card reappeared. This was also a cover-up. After all, only Wu Ming and Zelik knew that the caster rank card had been recycled. Even Bazette, who had recycled 2 rank cards, did not know that the caster rank card had appeared and was recycled by Wu Ming. Since Wu Ming's purpose at the moment was to find Meiyu, it could be said that Wu Ming had single-handedly contributed to the emergence of the rank cards. I hope that Meiyu will appear after the rank cards appear. Wu Ming sighed. In the 5 years of living with Meiyu, it seemed that Meiyu could do anything and seemed to be a genius child, but Wu Ming knew that this was just the result of Meiyu's own efforts. Because of Meiyu's request, Wu Ming even bought college-type books home, and Meiyu read them all. Meiyu was very smart, really smart, but because of her childhood experience, Meiyu's emotional loss. Meiyu was really not good at dealing with people, the ways of the world, and so on. This was why Wu Ming was worried about Meiyu. Wu Ming got up and was ready to meet the magician who was responsible for the recycling of the rank cards recommended by Zelik. Because there were no disasters, Winterwood City developed very quickly. As for why there were no buildings in the open space in front of the Shoayu residence, it was purely because there was a mountain here, and there were no economic benefits to be taken advantage of. The developer was secretly very grateful to Wu Ming for buying this land. On the other side of Winterwood City was the Winterwood City Airport. Wu Ming used the Lune Rune to make himself invisible. He stood on a tall building and looked at the airport exit. Soon, a girl in red and a girl in blue entered Wu Ming's sight. Her red hair was loose, and there were 2 ponytails in her loose hair. Her eyes were green, and she wore a red top and a black short skirt. Black knee socks wrapped around her healthy and beautiful thighs, revealing her fair and absolute territory. Blue had a head of golden curly hair that was adorned with pale blue ribbons. She wore a blue gown that made people's eyes light up. Her fair skin was set off by the blue gown, and her eyes were like amber gems. She was constantly emitting an elegant aura. The reason why Wu Ming believed that this person was the magician who came to recycle the rank cards was because of the lapis lazuli Kalis barrel. Kalis was the most advanced magic dress made by Zelik. With the existence of artificial spirits, Kalis, who sacrificed her attack and focused on assisting, easily felt the existence of her own kind. Master, those two humans have my kind on them. Oh. Kalis, are you saying that they have the magic dress made by Zelik? Wu Ming said against the wind. Yes, master. Then Wu Ming looked at the two girls more attentively. To be able to make Zelik take out the most advanced magic dress, Zelik really values these two girls. However, Wu Ming smiled and continued, it's just that these two don't have a good relationship. Kalis, there's a good show to watch. I don't think there will be a good show. You're still as bad as ever, master. Kalis complained. Well, what's wrong with that? It's a good opportunity to understand their methods. With that, Wu Ming disappeared through a portal. On the other side, Rin and Osaka and Livia walked side by side on the road, pulling their suitcases. The two of them glared at each other. What a remote place, Rin and Osaka. Livia, who was wearing a blue dress, mocked him elegantly. Emph. If you don't like it, you can leave, Livia Sarinta Eiderfelt. Rin and Osaka said fiercely. Oh, I forgot. Barbarians don't fit in here. This time it was Rin and Osaka's turn to mock. Of course I won't fit in your monkey country. Livia glared. At this moment, a frivolous female voice came from Rin and Osaka's suitcase. Aya, why are you two fighting again? You were at the airport just now, and now you're fighting again. Shut up, Ruby. Rin and Osaka roared. It's all this barbarian's fault. What? You're just a monkey, it's clearly your fault. Livia also roared. The noble aura that the two of them had instantly disappeared, as if they had been beaten back to their original selves. Seriously, you two are going to work together to recover the rank cards. You have to get along well. The voice called Ruby came from Rin and Osaka's suitcase again. My sister is right, Livia-sama. Please maintain a good relationship with Rin-sama. A female voice also came from Livia's suitcase. However, this voice was more cold and steady. Ha! Maintain a good relationship. What are you talking about, Sapphire? I don't want it. Exactly, who wants to maintain a good relationship with a barbarian? Their words became more and more heated. Then Rin and Osaka said, if that's the case, then we'll have to fight. Livia nodded. Looks like this is the only way to tame this monkey. Then, the two of them waved their hands and shouted, transform. Then what happened next shocked even Wu Ming, who was secretly following behind them. Two magic wands flew out from their suitcases and landed in Rin and Osaka's and Livia's hands. Then, Rin and Osaka and Livia's bodies began to glow. When the glow dissipated, their clothes became animal-like magical girl costumes. Then the two of them flew into the sky and began their battle of magical girl costumes. Wu Ming, on the other hand, revealed himself and looked at the two people flying into the sky in a daze. What's this? Magical girl? Then, as if he remembered something, Wu Ming quickly asked, Kalis, don't tell me you can transform the user too? Oh. Kalis was silent. Wu Ming covered his face and said shamefully, I knew it. Zelik, that old fox, wouldn't let me take advantage of him. Then Wu Ming used the invisibility rune again, entered the invisible state, and flew up into the sky. Chapter 136. Rin and Osaka and Livia continued to attack. Magic bullets danced in the air, occasionally engaging in close-range combat. Although it was beautiful, these attacks weren't that simple. Zelrich's magic attire could make an ordinary person comparable to a first-rate magician. Just from this alone, it was enough to see the power of rubies and sapphires. Wu Ming was a little bored, and after a while, Livia found an opportunity to hit Rin and Osaka. Although Rin and Osaka wasn't injured because of the ruby's protection, his face was still covered in dust. The ruby on his hand said so. I've been using protection all the time, but at this distance, I can't block all the attacks. Livia laughed and mocked. Oh ha, you better disappear quickly, Rin and Osaka. Rin and Osaka said with a suppressed voice. Is that so? I can understand your feelings in that case. Then, Rin and Osaka took out a card with an archer's face on it. Let's use this to decide the winner. Livia's eyes narrowed as well. She then took out her class card as well. There was a ranger holding a gun on it. Come on then. The two of them raised their staffs at the same time and stuck their class cards onto their staffs as they yelled out. Class card. Archer, archer. Include. Class card. Lancer, lancer. Include. Just when Wu Ming thought something would happen, nothing happened. Except for the awkwardness. Hey Ruby, what's going on? Rin Enbin grabbed the ruby in confusion and poked it with his rank card. Livia was also puzzled and asked Sapphire. What's going on, Sapphire? Aya, that's about enough, you two. The wings on the ruby's staff were like an anthropomorphic figure, making a helpless gesture. The reason why Master gave you the starry staff is because he wants you to work together to recover the class card. Livia, who didn't get along with Rin and Osaka, wouldn't let go of this opportunity to mock Rin and Osaka. Ohoho serves him right, Rin Tozaka. He was taught a lesson by his own magic staff. Livia cackled in the style of a queen. It seems that I'm the only one qualified to hold the starry wand. Livia had a smug look on her face. No, Lady Livia is the same. Sapphire suddenly said. What? Livia asked in surprise. In view of Lord Livia's attitude towards the mission as if no one else was present, I already believe that Lord Livia has lost the qualifications to become the master. What are you talking about? Sapphire. Livia stared at Sapphire in disbelief. Naturally, Rin and Osaka, who didn't like Livia, wouldn't let this opportunity slip by. Who was the one who said he was qualified? How interesting. Rin and Osaka mocked. Shut up. Livia's face was filled with indignation. At this moment, the ruby in Rin Enbin's hand said, Anyway, that's it. Then Ruby and Sapphire pulled the two of them away from their hands. Please forgive us for acting on our own initiative. Please allow us to leave for a while. Ruby and Sapphire said together. Damn it, get back here. A mere wand dares to defy its master. Rin and Osaka said in exasperation. Haha. I'm so sorry, Miss Rin is no longer my master. Ruby made a frivolous sound. You bastard, I'll never let you go, Sapphire. Livia said in exasperation. I'm so sorry, original master. Oh right. Ruby reminded them. You've already exited your transformation state. If you don't think of a way, you'll fall. Ruby said cheerfully. At this moment, Rin and Osaka and Livia realized that their clothes had returned to their original state. Wah dash. Rin and Osaka and Livia cried out in pain as they fell. A scream resounded through the sky. Ruby flapped her wings and said, Take care. Then Ruby and Sapphire left. Wu Ming appeared and shook his head with a smile. What a pair of clowns, whether it's the wands or the magician. What do you think, Kalas? Wu Ming asked Kalas. Although it's necessary to determine if the user has the qualifications to be a master, it's too dangerous for the user to deactivate their transformation in the air. Kalas's cold voice sounded. If Kalas thinks that I don't have the qualifications, will she also leave me? Wu Ming asked. No, master. You're Kalas's master for life. This won't change. Kalas replied in an anxious voice. I know. I just wanted to see Kalas's anxious face. After all, you've shown too little of your feelings. Wu Ming smiled. In the past 5 years, Wu Ming had already improved Kalas's favorability. Wu Ming didn't treat Kalas as a tool, but as a life. That's why Kalas was so loyal to Wu Ming. In fact, even if Kalas wanted to leave Wu Ming, it was impossible. The magic costume Kalas had been completely transformed into Wu Ming's noble phantasm. Therefore, the master-servant relationship might be forever. You're still as bad as ever, master. Kalas's cold voice returned. Sorry. Wu Ming smiled. At that time, the residual detection technique Wu Ming set up in Winterwood City worked. Wu Ming was a little excited and flew to that place at a very fast speed. A little girl was walking on the road. Because her clothes were thin, the little girl found a piece of clothes in the garbage on the side of the road. The little girl didn't dislike it, and put it on directly. Looking at the strange and familiar place, the little girl was a little lost. Brother Wu Ming. Brother Shiro. The little girl couldn't help but think of her two brothers. Although Meiyu was sad, She was still strong enough not to cry. After Shiro Amiya made a wish, Mayu had already come to this world when she opened her eyes. Mayu thought about Shiro Amiya's last move. As if he noticed something, Shiro Amiya was a little shocked, and then he reacted. Mayu, my brother asked me to tell you that I'm sorry. We'll be separated for a while. Then, Shiro Amiya directly used the spell on the scroll given by Wuming and made a wish. In Mayu's eyes, Shiro Amiya directly made a wish, then resolutely turned around and left. Mayu, who hadn't figured out what happened, came to this strange world. Mayu! Then an excited voice came. Chapter 137. Mayu. Following an emotional voice, Mayu raised her head. A warm embrace embraced Mayu. Woo. Brother Wuming. Mayu said in disbelief as she raised her head. Mayu, who had always been strong and not shed tears, actually shed tears at this moment. After all, a second ago, they were told to be apart for a while. After preparing herself, they met again in the next second. This was hard for a 10-year-old child to accept. I'm sorry, Mayu, I've made you suffer, Wuming said with some heartache. Then he wiped away Mayu's tears with his hand. It's okay, Brother Wuming still found me in the end. Mayu shook her head. Wuming hugged Mayu tightly with self-reproach. Looking at Mayu's old and smelly coat, Wuming could imagine. A little girl, who had no relatives or friends in this world, appeared on the streets in thin clothes. In order to not let her body feel cold, the little girl dug out old clothes from the trash and put them on. After all, Mayu was a weak little girl. Wuming didn't teach Mayu magic. Firstly, it was to let Mayu have a stable life. Secondly, Mayu didn't like magic. Fortunately, there were no human traffickers in Winterwood City. If Mayu was kidnapped by human traffickers and something happened to her, Wuming might destroy this world. There was no doubt that Wuming could do such a thing. As the origin dragon from the Great Origin, Wuming had the confidence and the determination to destroy everything for Mayu. After all, she was a sister. She was meant to be loved. How could he let his sister suffer? Wuming gently took off Mayu's old clothes and put his clothes on Mayu. Then, Wuming picked up Mayu and said, Let's go, Mayu. Let's go home. Mayu's eyes widened. Home. Yes, a home that only belongs to us. Wuming smiled and nodded. Wuming immediately opened a portal and brought Mayu to the Shoayu residence. Where the two of them were originally standing, a magic wand appeared. The wand lingered on the spot where Wuming was standing. Then, as if it had found something, the magic wand immediately turned and headed in a certain direction. Wuming took a bath with Mayu and gave her a new set of clothes. Then under Wuming's care, Mayu fell asleep peacefully. Wuming walked out of the room. Looks like Mayu is really tired. She fell asleep as soon as I started telling her the story. Wuming had just started telling Mayu the story when he noticed that Mayu's breathing had stabilized. After testing, Miss Mayu's mental state has gone through ups and downs. It's not strange for her to have this kind of situation. Collis explained. I know. But I'm still worried about Mayu. Wuming sighed and said. Wuming was still blaming himself. If only I didn't go and watch the fight between Rin Tasaka and Livia. If only I had discovered Mayu earlier. If only I didn't find it troublesome to set up an all-around detection tactic in Fuyuki City. Wuming kept blaming himself. After all, when he first saw Mayu, Mayu's expression was something that Wuming would never forget. Shaking his head, Wuming decided not to think about it. After all, Mayu was back. Wuming wouldn't let Mayu suffer anymore. Alright, since it's still early, let's buy some daily necessities and ingredients for Mayu. As he spoke, Wuming walked out of the Shoayu mansion. At this moment, a blue magic staff arrived outside the Shoayu mansion. This is a magic workshop. Who built such a large and powerful magic workshop? Blue Baisher said. We have to go in first. Then Sapphire began to analyze the barriers outside the Shoayu mansion. Because of Mayu's arrival, the Shoayu residence was opened by Wu Ming with 7 major barriers and 21 minor barriers. A total of 28 barriers formed a grand barrier. Even if Blue Baisher had the highest level of magic attire, without an owner, he wouldn't be able to decipher the barrier. Moreover, even if he had an owner, he might not be able to decipher the barrier. However, if Sapphire was given time, she might be able to decipher it. However, there wasn't enough time. Wuming hid his presence and hovered in the air, watching Sapphire's every move. As soon as Sapphire arrived near the Shilayu mansion, Wuming had already noticed. Because Wuming knew that the starry staff meant no harm, Wuming didn't stop it. Wuming's magic workshop wasn't like other magicians. If it wasn't invaded, it wouldn't be discovered. The magic workshop had already set up a detection tactic in the 1,000 meters surrounding the Shilayu mansion. Under Wuming's instructions, Sapphire quickly opened an entrance to the Shilayu mansion. Otherwise, with Sapphire's current condition, it might take a long time to decipher the barrier. Then Sapphire flew in. "Are you looking for Mayu to be your new owner?" Wuming said. Wuming thought about it and decided to let Mayu make the decision. Wuming now understood that he couldn't always be by Mayu's side. Mayu had to strengthen herself. Even in this peaceful world, Mayu had to at least be able to protect herself. Wuming no longer paid attention to the Shilayu mansion's situation and left. After a while, Wuming returned with some purchased items. Wuming walked into the house and put down various ingredients and daily necessities. Wuming turned his head and looked at Mayu, who was hiding outside the door. "Don't hide. I found you long ago." Wuming had surveillance of every corner of the Shilayu mansion. Even a fly could be found accurately. Of course, that was if the fly could enter. "Brother Wuming." Mayu walked in a little embarrassed. At this moment, Mayu's clothes had changed drastically. Mayu held a sapphire wand in her hand. She was wearing a light blue-purple outfit, like a primary school student's swimsuit. She wore knee-high boots on her legs and a black feathery skirt on her waist. A small white cape extended from her back. She looked like a little elf. "Not bad, Mayu. It suits you very well," Wuming said with a smile. "No. Brother Wuming, don't make fun of me," Mayu said with a red face. "Why would I?" Wuming walked in front of Mayu and squatted down. Why would a brother make fun of a sister? And Wuming looked firmly into Mayu's eyes and said, "Have you decided?" Mayu's face was no longer red. She met Wuming's eyes. Then Mayu's little head firmly nodded. "Yes, I've decided, Brother Wuming." Wuming smiled. "That's good. Mayu, you have to remember that no matter what you choose, I will always be your strong backing." "Thank you, Brother Wuming." Mayu hugged Wuming and said gently. Wuming hugged Mayu with both hands and quietly enjoyed this moment of peace. Chapter 138. The next day, Wuming suggested that they go to the place where the cards were stored to retrieve them, but Sapphire objected. "I think Lady Mayu should look for Lady Livia. Lady Livia is the Great Master's personal staff to retrieve the cards, so she's very familiar with them." However, Wuming said, "I don't think that little girl can teach Mayu anything." In the end, Mayu decided to look for Livia, whom she had never met before. After all, according to Sapphire, Livia might still be looking for Sapphire at this moment. All right, then Mayu should go." Wuming looked as though he wanted to come back early. Brother Wuming isn't coming with me?" Mayu was puzzled. "Mayu." Wuming looked at Mayu seriously. It was rare for him to be so serious. Yes. Mayu looked at Wuming nervously. "You should know that you're a magical girl now. You need to learn to be independent, so I won't help you this time. This is your own choice." Wuming said seriously. "Yes. I understand, Brother Wuming." Mayu replied seriously. Then, Mayu left the house as though she was stepping onto a battlefield. As soon as Mayu left, Wuming heaved a sigh of relief. "It's better if I don't show myself." Then, because he was still worried about Mayu, Wuming used an invisibility spell and quietly followed behind Mayu. Because she didn't find Sapphire, Livia rested for a night and started looking for Sapphire again. "Damn it! Sapphire's family, where did they go?" Livia said angrily. "That are you, Livia?" Suddenly, a little girl's voice sounded in Livia's ears. Livia turned her head and saw a black-haired girl of about 10 years old standing not far away. "That's right, I'm Livia. Who are you, little sister? How do you know me?" Livia asked in an amiable manner. Wu Ming, who was following behind, saw this scene and the corner of his mouth twitched. As long as Rin and Osaka wasn't around, Livia was always very elegant. Lady Livia. Sapphire appeared behind Mayu and bowed to Livia. So you're here. Sapphire, hurry up and come back with me. Livia said angrily, as if she had just seen a worried child. I'm very sorry, Madam Livia. My current master is Mayu. Sapphire said politely and pointed at Mayu like a human. As if she had accepted her fate, Livia rubbed her forehead in distress and said, Really, Sapphire? How could you drag a normal person into this? Because Lady Livia and Lady Ling both ignored the mission. This is something that can't be helped, Sapphire said calmly. Regarding the matter of retrieving the rank cards, I'm willing to do it. At this moment, Mayu's voice was heard. Rather than leaving it like this, it's better to give these rank cards to you. Mayu said with some pain. Oh, looks like you're not a normal person. Livia squinted her eyes. I'll help you retrieve the rank cards, and you're not allowed to ask about me. How about it? Livia looked at Mayu's clear eyes, thought for a moment, then nodded. That's the only way. Who told Sapphire to take you as her master? Wu-Ming nodded with satisfaction. Then Wu-Ming left. Mayu and Livia walked to a coffee shop and sat down. After all, even if they couldn't ask about Mayu's past, they should at least understand each other. However, Wu-Ming wasn't interested in listening to their conversation. Moreover, it didn't matter even if the other party found out something. According to his usual habits, Wu-Ming would go to Ilya's house to cook dinner. However, because of Mayu, Wu-Ming sent a message to Ilya and the others saying that he wouldn't be going today. After Wu-Ming returned home, he was busy in the kitchen. For Mayu, Wu-Ming even made several servings of omelette rice. After a moment, the doorbell rang. Wu-Ming sensed it and was a bit puzzled. Ilya? That's right, the people at the door were Ilya, Shiro, Sella, Lizette, and the others. Wu-Ming went to open the door. Big brother, Ilya smiled sweetly. Why are you here? Wu-Ming asked, puzzled. Shiro, Amiya, and Sella were a bit embarrassed, while Lizette still looked indifferent. Hey, hates big brother. Didn't you say that your little sister is back? We wanted to celebrate. Ilya scratched her head in embarrassment. I think it's you guys who want to eat my cooking. Wu-Ming teased. Everyone was embarrassed. Come in, I'm cooking. Wu-Ming hurriedly stepped aside. Yes, everyone answered and walked into the Shoyu residence. In the kitchen, Wu-Ming was busy. Because of today's special meaning, Wu-Ming chose not to let anyone help him. Instead, he chose to do it himself. Ilya and the others were sitting in the living room and chatting. After a moment, Mayu returned to the Shoyu residence. I'm back, Mayu habitually shouted. You're back, Mayu. Wu-Ming walked out of the kitchen. Ilya and the others stood up and looked at Mayu. Mayu, let me introduce you. This is Ilya. Wu-Ming pointed at Ilya. For some reason, Mayu and Ilya looked at each other seriously. There was a special feeling between them. Then, Wu-Ming started to introduce the others. Shiro, Amiya, Sella, and Lizette. When Shiro Amiya was introduced, Mayu's eyes flickered slightly. However, it quickly disappeared. Hello, I'm Shitsuki Mayu. It's our first time meeting, please take care of me. Mayu bowed politely. So elegant. To the casual Ilya, this was undoubtedly someone else's child. Alright, you guys go ahead and chat. Sherlang, come with me to serve the dishes. The dishes are almost ready. Yes, big brother. Soon, a large table of dishes was placed on the table. Looking at the sumptuous table, Ilya gasped in amazement. Wow, what a sumptuous meal. Big brother loves Mayu very much. Ilya looked at Mayu with a hint of envy. Mayu did not say anything. Instead, she looked at the omelette rice before her that was arranged in a heart shape. Brother Wu-Ming, I'm very happy now. Mayu mumbled softly and smiled. Wu-Ming and the others did not hear Mayu's words. Then Wu-Ming said, I didn't intend to cook so much. If you guys hadn't come, I would have only made enough for Mayu and me. Everyone started to eat heartily. By the way, Brother Wu-Ming's house is so big. Aren't there any other servants? Sella was concerned about this. Perhaps it was because she was a nanny. Wu-Ming put down his chopsticks and said, No. How should I put it? The Shoyu residence is built with special wood that can effectively reduce dust. Hence, there's no need to specially clean it. Is there such wood? Sella muttered to herself in confusion. Wuming hurriedly used suggestion magic to influence the others. However, after Ilya was affected, her body seemed to have a protective shield. Only a slight fluctuation appeared in her eyes. Soon they finished their dinner. After sending Ilya and the others away, Wuming taught Mayu some basic knowledge of magic. Well, most of it was taught by Kalas. After all, Wuming did not understand such basic things. When it was almost midnight, Mayu said goodbye to Wuming and left the Shoayu residence. Be careful on the road. Wuming waved and watched Mayu leave. Wuming, who was still worried, used invisibility again and followed behind Mayu. Chapter 139. Mayu came to Suechuan Academy High School. After Mayu and Livia met up, there was also a pair on the field of the high school. Wuming stood on a building in the Suechuan Academy High School and looked at Ilya and Rin Enbin in the middle of the field. I see. Ilya has also become the new owner of the Starry Magic Staff. It suits this girl quite well. Wuming smiled. Wuming watched with interest as Ilya received the order to go to the toilet. With a flash of light in the toilet, Ilya walked out wearing a pink magical girl outfit. She was wearing a pink blouse and a mini skirt, pink and white boots, and a small cloak on her back that looked like a pair of small wings. Her hair was tied up with 2 bunny ears, and she held a red wand in her hand. Why did you go to the toilet to transform? Rin Enbin, who was standing on the field, asked in confusion. Because I'm very shy, Ilya said weakly. How can that be? Ilya-chan, magical girls are for people to look at. Magical aunties like Miss Rin will be teased. The magic staff in Ilya's hand made a frivolous sound. Wuming heard it with his extraordinary hearing. As expected, only this shameless Ruby would say that. What are you talking about? Ruby. Rin Enbin was like an evil spirit. His eyes were red, and his back turned black as he looked at the ruby in Ilya's hand. Aya, let's get down to business. The ruby began to change the topic. Humph. If it wasn't for business today, you'd be in trouble. Rin Enbin snorted coldly, then looked at Ilya. Get ready, Ilya. What? Ilya was confused. Instantly, a large magic circle appeared under Ilya and Rin Enbin's feet. The magic circle kept spinning, complex and ever-changing, like a flower that kept blooming and withering. What is this? Ilya asked in a somewhat panicked manner. Don't worry, this is just a passage to the mirror world, Rin Enbin explained. Passage? Ilya hugged the ruby and asked in confusion. Add imaginary number axis to the 5th variable. Prepare for the reversal. Multiple spaces confirmed. The central coordinate has been fixed. Form a reflection route with a radius of 2 meters. The realm corridor's partial reversal has begun. Next, we'll go to the world where the cards exist, Rin Enbin said in an experienced tone. A world where cards exist? Ilya was even more puzzled. Yes, connected to an infinite number of mirrors. If this world is one of the mirror images, then this is the mirror world. That's the world where the rank cards are, the mirror world. To put it simply, it's the world inside the mirror. Rin Enosaka explained. In an instant, the scene before Ilya changed. The originally quiet and uninhabited campus became somewhat strange at this moment. There were still a lot of glass-like fragments floating in the sky. The coordinates are stable. The space movement is complete. Ruby, who was being hugged by Ilya, twisted her body rather humanly and said to Ilya, This is the mirror world? Ilya looked around in a daze. Ilya, they're coming. Rin Enbin shouted. What? What's coming? Ilya said in a panic. Then in the middle of the field, Ilya saw an extremely strange scene. In the middle of the field, a cluster of black mist condensed and formed a black sludge that resembled a black hole. An arm reached out from the black sludge, just like in a horror movie. What is this? Ilya was a bit scared. Don't be scared, Ilya. This is the heroic spirit of the rank card, Rin Enbin said. A heroic spirit? What's that? As an elementary school student, Ilya didn't know about heroic spirits. They are heroes in human history. After they died, they became legendary existences, Rin Enbin said. The power of the rank card is provided by heroic spirits. If you want to obtain the rank card, you must first defeat the heroic spirit's power within the rank card, which is the incarnation of the heroic spirit. Do we have to fight? Ilya was a bit confused. Of course. Didn't I tell you? Rin Enbin said awkwardly. Of course not. Ilya was a bit hysterical. Let's not talk about this for now. It's coming. After hearing Rin Enbin's words, Ilya looked toward the middle of the field. A woman with a good figure, wearing a black half-exposed leather jacket and a black eye mask, stood there. Ugh! A zombie-like sound came from the woman's body. She raised her head. The gem on the eye mask was like an eyeball, emitting a strange red light. So scary. Ilya was scared. After all, 2 days ago, Ilya was just an elementary school student. Even if it was a weakened version of a heroic spirit, it wasn't something an elementary school student could defeat. Do your best, Ilya. Ilya heard Rin Enbin's encouragement, but this voice seemed to be a bit far away. Ilya helplessly looked at Rin Enbin, who was hiding far away. Ilya, get out of the way, Ruby shouted. Ilya subconsciously dodged to the side, and a short sword connected to a chain stabbed into her original spot. Attack Ilya, Ruby said. What should I do? Ilya asked with a trembling voice. Imagine a powerful attack, Ruby said. Ilya was still a little scared. She closed her eyes and waved Ruby. A slash that tore through the atmosphere flew toward the dark servant. Boom! The sound of a hit was heard. Ilya opened her eyes and looked at it in disbelief. Oh, that's amazing, Ilya. You actually released a powerful slash. Is that so? Seems like it's effective. Ilya said weakly. Wuming stood on the roof of the mirror world. As soon as Ilya and Rin Enbin entered the mirror world, Wuming followed closely behind. With his powerful strength and the Hero King's rank card, no one discovered Wuming's trace. Looking at the immature Ilya, who could even be said to be a complete novice, Wuming couldn't help but shake his head. Really, Ilya is still too inexperienced. It's too dangerous to let Ilya, who has no combat experience, participate, Wuming said. But it's about time. Wuming smiled. Because the opponent dodged the attack, Ilya began to use a reduced power scatter shot. Then the opponent began to use a noble artifact. Ilya, leave quickly, the opponent is about to use a noble artifact, Rin Enbin shouted from behind. Just as Rin Enbin stood in front of Ilya and activated a defensive magic, a petite figure walked out of the shadows. Rank card Lancer, including Gaybolg Piercing Thorn Spear. Chapter 140. Gaybolg. May you use the Sapphire and the Lancer class card to transform her Scarlet Spear into a spear and stabbed forward with all her might. The spear pierced through the Dark Follower's chest. The scarlet magic circle in front of the Dark Rider shattered and disappeared. The Dark Rider spat out a mouthful of blood, and his figure slowly faded. After he disappeared, a card appeared in his place. Mayu picked up Rider's card, and the Gaybolg disappeared and turned into a sapphire staff. Beauty tour? Ilya said in surprise. Hello, Ilya, Mayu said calmly. Because they had met before and had been taught by Wu Ming. Although Mayu didn't treat Ilya too coldly, their relationship could be considered to be very good. They were merely acquaintances. Ilya, is that someone you know? Rin Enbin asked. Yes, she is Big Brother's sister. I have been to Big Brother's house and met his sister. Ilya was hesitant, but she still told Rin Enbin. Oh, suddenly, a strange laughter was heard. Rin Enbin instantly gritted his teeth and said, This voice is Livia. Rin Enbin looked in the direction of the voice. Livia walked over very elegantly and looked at Rin Enbin proudly. How is it, Rin Enbin, this time I won first place? Then Livia looked at Mayu. Thank you for your hard work, Mayu. Mayu silently handed the class card to Livia. What a pity, Rin Enbin. I will accept this card. Oh, don't be so proud. Rin Enbin suddenly rushed over and punched Livia's face. Livia was sent flying to the ground. Ilya and Mayu looked at this scene and didn't know what to do. Since you saw it, you should have come to help earlier, you bastard. Rin Enbin clenched his fist and stared at Livia. Rubbing her face in pain, Livia crawled up and said, You bastard. To actually do such a thing to a lady's face, I really hate barbarians like you the most. Cut the crap. Isn't that a sneak attack? As they quarreled, the two of them wrestled with each other. Oh, looks like it's developing into something like this, Ruby said helplessly. Speaking of which, what's going on? Ilya's shoulders drooped as she said weakly. At this moment, the mirror world suddenly began to shake. What's wrong? Ilya asked. Because the card was recycled, the mirror world began to collapse, Ruby explained. Then let's hurry back. Ilya was starting to panic. Not bad. It seems Wrath's attacks have become even more exquisite. Livia panted heavily as she spoke, cutting a sorry figure. As long as I know your attack path, then I can definitely dodge it. Rin Enbin was also panting heavily, and his face was haggard. Looks like it's not going to work. They're already using body language. Looking at the two of them who were still wrestling with each other, and Ruby who was replying calmly, Ilya was confused. How can you two still chat so calmly? At this moment, Mayu walked to the center of the three of them. Sapphire, Mayu said. Yes, master, Sapphire replied. At the same time, just like before they entered, a large magic circle appeared under their feet. However, unlike Ruby's magic circle, Sapphire's magic circle was bluish-purple. Delete the imaginary axis from the measurement variable, fix the center coordinate. Set the radius to 6 meters, form a reflection path. Return to the normal world. Instantly, light enveloped everyone, and then Ilya, Mayu and the others disappeared. Wuming watched them disappear and said, Then let's go, Kalas. Yes, master. Reality. Shiwayu residence. Wuming was sitting in the courtyard, waiting for Mayu's return. After a while, Mayu walked into Shiwayu residence. I'm back, brother Wuming, Mayu said. Welcome back. How was it, Mayu? Are you alright? Wuming smiled warmly. I'm fine, don't worry, brother Wuming. Then Mayu seemed to want to say something but stopped. Wuming naturally noticed Mayu's abnormality. Do you have anything else to ask, Mayu? Wuming stroked Mayu's head and said warmly, Brother Wuming, what does he think of Ilya? Mayu asked. Wuming, who was secretly following Mayu, naturally knew why Mayu asked that. Then he said, Oh, Ilya. She's just an ordinary elementary school student. Is that so? Mayu lowered her head and pondered. Oh, right. Do you want to go to school, Mayu? The next day, Ilya leaned on the table weakly. I'm so sleepy. At this time, the homeroom teacher, Daigu Fujimura, walked in. Hello, everyone. Although it's a little sudden, a new student transferred in today. Please come in. When he finished speaking, Mayu walked to the podium wearing Suechu and Hara Academy's elementary school uniform, and holding her handbag. I'm Shitsuki, Mayu. Please take care of me. Mayu bowed. Oh, so cute, how polite. Yes. Many people started discussing. Ilya raised her head in disbelief and looked at Mayu. What? Daikawa Fujimura wrote Mayu's name on the blackboard. Then he turned around and slapped the table. Mayu just came back from abroad. There are many things that she doesn't understand. You have to take care of her. Yes, the children said in unison. Let me see. Mayu, you can sit behind Ilya. Yes, sensei. Mayu walked to the table behind Ilya and sat down. Ilya, who was originally very sleepy, was now very careful as if she was sitting on pins and needles. After a while, because Daikawa Fujimura forgot to take the photocopied teaching materials, this lesson was temporarily self-study. Ilya found an excuse and left the classroom. Ilya sighed. Oh, what an old-fashioned plot. Ruby came out of Ilya's hair and stood on Ilya's shoulder. Ruby put away her staff, leaving only 3 pairs of small wings with curved edges. Yet a mysterious transfer student has appeared, Ely said weakly. This is something that often appears in magical girl stories. A rather polite and clear voice sounded. Ilya turned around and saw that it was the magic staff that Mayu was holding last night. At this moment, just like Ruby, she put away the staff, leaving only the curved edges of the staff with a bow on it. Isn't this Xiaolan? Ruby greeted her enthusiastically. We haven't seen each other for an entire night, sister. Sister? Ilya exclaimed in surprise. Chapter 141. On the rooftop of the Suikun Yuan Academy Primary School, Ilya, Ruby, and Sapphire walked there. What's the matter with sister? Ilya asked. It's like this. Little Blue and I were made at the same time. Ruby said. I'm Sapphire. Nice to meet you. Please take care of my sister. Sapphire bowed like a human. Don't mention it, please take care of me. I'm Ilya. Ilya quickly returned a salute. She's so polite, Ilya thought. Little Blue, who are you? Ruby asked. Yes, my new master is Mayu-sama. Speaking of which, if it weren't for Wuming-sama, I might not have been able to conclude a contract with Mayu-sama. Hey, is it related to Big Brother? Ilya asked. Yes, after separating from my sister, I was looking for a fated person everywhere. As a result, I found the magic aura left behind by Mayu-sama. Then I followed it all the way and came to Wuming-sama's house. Ilya and the Ruby listened attentively. Wuming-sama's house is a very powerful magic workshop. It would take a long time for me to break the enchantment outside. It was because of Wuming-sama's permission that I entered Shoayu's house. After discussing with Mayu-sama, I signed a contract. If that's the case, Big Brother is also a magician, Ilya said with a look of realization. Well, Wuming-sama's magic is quite powerful. I even thought that Mr. Wuming was a servant. When she first saw Wuming, Sapphire was also shocked. Because Wuming didn't deliberately hide his magic and aura, Sapphire easily noticed Wuming's huge magic. In fact, Sapphire wasn't wrong. After Wuming was transformed into a class card, he automatically condensed into a physical body and continued to rely on his own magic. Although he was not the same as a servant, there was no difference. But there was one thing, and that was Wuming had become stronger. That was because the servant was slightly different from the heroic spirits in the class card. Servants would be strengthened or weakened by their own class, master's magic power, region, and other aspects. However, the class card stored the power of the heroic spirit. Although it was also limited by the class and the reputation of the region, it was not affected by the master's magic power. In other words, Wuming, who relied solely on his massive mana, received the greatest boost in all his attributes. Of course, Wuming was just an accident. After all, rank cards were originally provided for human magicians. If they were used by human magicians, all kinds of restrictions would reappear. Even if a class card materialized, it would be an empty shell without consciousness. It would only instinctively attack pure magic blocks in its own territory, absorbing the existence of the underground spirit veins. By the way, is Ilya's big brother the one you went to that night? Ruby asked. Because it was a family freeloading dinner, Ilya did not bring Ruby with her but left her at home. Well, Big Brother's family is very big, just like a noble. Ilya nodded with a different look in her eyes. Hey, I really want to see the big brother that made Ilya infatuated. Ruby began to tease again. What? Of course not. Ilya bashfully patted the Ruby, while the Ruby nimbly dodged. Ahaha, by the way, Little Blue's master Mayu is really strong. She can even use the class cards restriction include. Ruby quickly changed the topic. Yes, I was also very surprised at that time. I didn't expect Mayu-sama's talent to be so high. Well, if she has such a powerful magician brother, it's normal to have such a high talent. But she really deserves to be called Little Blue. She can actually find such a great master, Ruby said so. Using this excuse could also be considered as comforting Ilya. After all, Ilya's performance yesterday was truly too weak. I'm sorry that I'm not such a great master. By the way, what's that restriction include that you guys were talking about? Ilya shrugged, then raised her doubts. Did Big Sister not explain it to Lord Ilya? Sapphire asked with a confused and surprised voice. Ahahaha, I forgot. Then Sapphire told her about the class card. So that's the case. Ilya seemed to have understood something important, and her face was filled with satisfaction. A legendary hero, huh? He seems so powerful. Ilya smiled. Due to some unknown reason, the class cards didn't appear at the same time. After 2 class cards appeared, the Magic Association sent a magician to retrieve those 2 cards. Sapphire continued. Wuming and Zelik had also discussed this problem. It seemed that because of Wuming's unusual class card, it caused the class cards in Mayo's appearance to be chaotic. The class cards are created from extremely advanced magic theories. The Magic Association can only create a restriction, include for the time being. That's because the Great Master, the person who created me and Big Sister, intervened and changed it to Lord Luvia and Lord Ling. As for us, because the 2 of them didn't cooperate, we left them and went to find our own masters. Really, just a pair of ponytails at an older age is equivalent to a magical girl. Ruby mocked in the end. Then, how many class cards have you collected now? Ilya asked. We've already retrieved Archer, Lancer, and the Rider class card that Mayu-sama defeated yesterday. We have a total of 3 class cards. Sapphire said. Ilya, do you still remember the Archer that Ling showed you? That's a class card. Ruby said. Ilya recalled the card that Ling in Osaka showed her that day. I see. Mayu-sama used the Lancer class card, the famous weapon of Cuculin, the son of light in Celtic mythology. It's a magic spear that can definitely hit the heart. Sapphire said. That dangerous? Ilya was surprised. Of course. After all, this is a weapon used by legendary heroes, Ruby interjected while floating in the air. At that moment a voice sounded. Sapphire. Ilya turned to look at the rooftop entrance. Mayu was standing there in her school uniform. Don't run around. I'm worried. Mayu said. Because Mayu had been taken care of by Wuming's exclusive magic attire, Emerald. Mayu was very concerned about Sapphire. I'm sorry, Mayu-sama. Sapphire hurriedly flew over. At that moment, Mayu looked at Ilya, and Ilya looked at Mayu. Both sides fell into silence. Chapter 142. Hello, I'm Ilya, Ilya said shyly. Yes, I'm Mayu. Then, as the school bell rang, the 2 hurriedly left the rooftop. Then Mayu showed genius-like talent in mathematics, art, home economics, sports, and other aspects. This shocked the group of primary school students and teachers, and even the homeroom teacher, Daikawa Fujimura, went crazy. In the evening, Ilya sat on a small chair in the park with a defeated expression. I say, it's about time. Do you need to keep being so depressed? Ruby said. Sai, you're right. It's not a big deal. I just didn't expect geniuses to really exist. Ilya sighed and said. Then, Ilya got up and was about to leave. Just as she turned her head, she saw Mayu passing by the park and Wuming, who came to pick her up. Big brother and Mayu. Ilya was a little nervous. Yo, Ilya, why are you alone in the park? Wuming greeted Ilya. Mayu nodded at Ilya and did not say anything. It's nothing. I'm going home now. Ilya touched her head with a blush. She could not say that she was sitting here to relax because of the blow. Then do you want me to send you home? Wuming said gently. Then I'll have to trouble you, brother Wuming. Ilya smiled shyly. Then, Wuming held Mayo's hand and walked on the road with Ilya beside him. As if she could not bear it anymore, Ilya spoke. Big brother, are you also a magician? Ilya asked carefully. Wuming smiled at this. I'm really sorry. I didn't expect Ilya to be related to magic, so I didn't tell you my identity back then. Wuming's apology made Ilya even more embarrassed. She hurriedly waved her hand. No, I'm the one who's sorry for prying into other people's privacy. Ruby, who couldn't bear to watch any longer, patted Ilya's head and said resentfully. Why are you apologizing? Ilya blushed and didn't know what to say. It's okay, Ilya. Inquiring about such things in the magic world isn't considered invading one's privacy. You can barely be considered half a magician now. Wuming smiled and patted Ilya's head. Why is it half? Ilya asked in confusion. That's because Ilya is a magical girl. How could she be a magician? Ruby cheered. Shut up. Ilya angrily grabbed the ruby and stuffed it into her school bag. She then looked at Wuming with a red face. Wuming continued. The reason why I said that Ilya is half a magician is because Ilya has just come into contact with magic. There are many things that she doesn't understand. Ilya nodded her little head. She didn't even know about heroic spirits yesterday. If Sapphire didn't explain it to her today, Ilya might not even know about it now. To be honest, it's best for Ilya to be a magical girl. Wu Ming's tone began to change. How should she say it? In short, it gave Ilya a feeling of joy. How should I say it, Ilya? It's best for you to leave the magic world after you finish reclaiming your rank cards. Then, you can peacefully be a primary school student. After all, the magic world has darkness that you can't imagine, Wu Ming said earnestly. Just as Ilya was stunned by Wu Ming's words, Wu Ming's tone changed. Well, however, even if you continue to choose this path, I will still protect you. Wu Ming's tone was unusually gentle as he stroked Ilya's head. These gentle words and gentle strokes caused Ilya's face to turn red. She looked at Wu Ming foolishly as if she had fallen into some fantasy. What's wrong, Ilya? Are you all right? Wu Ming pinched Ilya's little face and asked worriedly. No, I'm fine. Ilya quickly reacted. Her face was red as she waved her hands frantically. We should hurry up and leave. Sarah will be worried, Ilya said. Then Ilya strode in front. After sending Ilya home, Wu Ming held Mayo's hand and walked on the road. Does Brother Wu Ming like Ilya fair? Mayu suddenly asked. Why do you ask? Wu Ming looked at Mayu and asked in confusion. Because Brother Wu Ming is very concerned about Ilya fair. Mayu was silent for a while before speaking. Wu Ming smiled and stroked Mayo's head. Our Mayu can't be envious, right? Mayo's face turned red. She shook her head and said, I'm not. However, no matter how one looked at it, she seemed a little arrogant. That's because Ilya gives me a feeling like Mayu, Wu Ming said seriously. This time Mayu was confused. My feeling? Looking at the familiar surroundings, Wu Ming nodded at Mayu. That's right, Mayu. Ilya gives me a feeling like you. Both are holy grails. Mayo's eyes focused. Wu Ming continued. I once sensed a strange magic power in Ilya's body. I secretly checked Ilya's body and found that there was a seal deep in Ilya's body. Wu Ming walked to the door of Shoyu's residence, pushed open the door, and walked in with Mayu. Because I once thought of sealing your holy grail physique, I studied this seal. Wu Ming sat on the stone bench in the courtyard and let Mayu sit beside him. So it's not that there's no holy grail war in this world, but that someone stopped the holy grail war from happening. So Brother Wu Ming is concerned about Ilya fair out of sympathy? Mayu said. How can that be? Wu Ming shook his head with a smile. That's because Ilya is also a cute child. I like children the most. Just like how I like you, Mayu. It's not because you're holy grails that I care about you, but because I simply like humans, like you cute children. Then, Wu Ming walked to Mayu and squatted down. So I didn't choose to take care of you out of sympathy or other reasons, but because we met. Wu Ming stroked Mayo's head and looked at her eyes that were the same color as his. It's because of such a simple geographical reason that you became my sister and my beloved. Although Wu Ming's words made Mayu blush, Mayu still listened to Wu Ming very seriously. How about maintaining a good relationship with Ilya? Looking at Wu Ming's smiling face, Mayu blushed and nodded. Okay, I'm going to cook. What does Mayu want to eat? Wu Ming stood up and said. Omelette rice. Mayu said in a low voice. Then make a deluxe special version. Mayu looked at Wu Ming's back and smiled in a daze. Brother Wu Ming. Chapter 143. After dinner, Mayu, dressed in a blue-purple magical girl outfit, went to Wu Ming, who was admiring the moon. Are you going, Mayu? Wu Ming said with his eyes closed while drinking a cup of tea. Although Mayu was a little curious why Brother Wu Ming closed his eyes while admiring the moon, Mayu nodded. Well, Sister Livia said that we will meet near the Winterwood City Bridge tonight. Well, be careful, that class card is a bit tricky. Wu Ming opened his eyes and looked at Mayu. Well, I know, Brother Wu Ming. Mayu left the Shuosuki house, and Wu Ming, who was sitting on the edge of the house, stood up. Are you worried about Miss Mayu, Master? Kalas Balit on Wu Ming's head said. Well, that's for sure. You know, now the two mirror realms near the Winterwood City Bridge have been merged, and one of them is a caster class card. Now, Caster should have built a magic workshop. Although not everyone's magic workshop was as crazy as Wu Ming's magic workshop, he was still able to betray the witch of a Kanzaki. Just the fact that he was a Kanzaki character was something that couldn't be ignored. Kala still doesn't understand why you want to put the caster class card back in place. Even if it's for training, I don't think Miss Mayu and Miss Ilya have the strength to defeat the other side. Golden Green's dragon horn glowed, and it kept making sounds. Because of this, I have to ensure their safety, and I have to do it without the other side knowing. Wu Ming walked out of the Shoasuki house, set up a magic barrier, and headed toward the Winterwood City Bridge. You know, I can't stay in this world all the time. I'll let them get some growth so that I can rest assured. Kalas didn't speak, but Kalas always felt that Wu Ming said to let Mayu grow, but in fact he was more flustered than anyone else. Master, there seems to be a professional term for what you said. I remember it's called tsundere. Wu Ming, who was walking on the road, slipped and almost fell. Wu Ming stabilized his body and stroked the dragon horn headdress. This information is wrong, delete it. Yes, Master. Winterwood City Bridge, Rin Enbin and Livia stood somewhere, waiting for the arrival of Ilya and Mayu. A pink figure came over. Big Sister Ling, Big Sister Livia. Ilya came over and greeted the two. You're here, Ilya, Rin Enbin replied. That's strange, why is Mayu late? You should know that Mayu is very punctual. Livia, who had more or less understood Mayu after interacting with her, was a little worried. At this moment, a petite figure came over. Sorry I'm late, Mayu said while panting. Because she wanted to spend more time with her brother. Mayu realized that there wasn't enough time, so she hurried over. It's fine, it's not time yet. Livia looked at the time and said to Mayu. Don't be careless, Ilya, be on guard against both the enemy and Livia. Rin Enbin said to Livia. Ilya had a helpless expression. I really hope that you won't provoke us when you quarrel, Ruby said. Mayu, hurry up and deal with it. Remember to involve Rin Enbin while dealing with the enemy, Livia said elegantly. Apart from the latter half, I understand the rest, Mayu said helplessly. Then, I think we should hurry up and retrieve the 4th class card, Rin Enbin said as he looked at Ilya and Ruby. Mayu. Livia also looked at Mayu and Sapphire. Yes, I understand. Okay. As Ruby and Sapphire chanted an incantation, a magic circle appeared under their feet again. Connect. Following Ilya and Mio's final words, they instantly disappeared from where they stood. Wu Ming came here and sensed the remnants of magic in the air. You've already entered? Then let's go in, Kalas. Yes, Master. Remember to use the invisibility spell. Don't let them see me. Yes, Master. With a flash of light, Wu Ming also disappeared from where he was. About a dozen seconds later, Ilya, Mayu, and the others who had disappeared earlier reappeared on the spot. They all looked battered and exhausted. It hurts, and it's so hot, what is that? Ilya said in shock. It's really bad. We seem to have encountered Caster, who has been prepared for a long time. Livia wiped her face with a handkerchief and said, Caster? A magician? Ilya sighed. Yes, there is no doubt that the opponent is a powerful magician. Ruby also sighed. According to the magic circle and incantation used by the opponent, it can be determined that it is not any kind of magic that exists in modern times. It can be determined that the opponent is using the long-lost kamikaze magic. Sapphire analyzed. That's not the worst. The main thing is that there is a large range of mana-pointing control platform around Caster, so our attacks can't hit her. Rin Enbin pinched his chin and said in distress. I wanted to ask just now, what is that mana-pointing control platform? This kind of new term was somewhat unfamiliar to Ilya, who had just stepped into the world of magicians. That is a defensive platform that can direct the flow of magic. Generally speaking, this kind of control platform is placed in a special place. I didn't expect that the opponent can make such a large piece. Rin Enbin said. According to our judgment, the opponent's mana-pointing control platform can only defend downward, that is to say, as long as we fly into the air we can attack her. Sapphire said. But this made Rin Enbin and Livia somewhat distressed. But it is really difficult to let Ilya and Mayu suddenly learn flying magic that they have never learned before. Is that so? Ilya's voice came from behind the two. They saw Ilya floating in the air, looking at the two with some excitement. Well, what's going on? Ilya, how did you suddenly learn how to fly? Rin Enbin said. Amazing. Ilya, you actually learned a difficult flying magic in an instant. Ruby said happily. Hey. Don't magical girls know how to fly? Ilya tilted her head and said innocently. Rin and Osaka, on the other hand, was shocked by Ilya's words. Damn it, Mayu, you also fly immediately. Luvia said, not to be outdone. After a moment of silence, Mayu said such a sentence. Humans can't fly. Just like Tu was shocked, Luvia was also shocked. Wuming, who had quietly come out, hid behind a tree and looked helplessly at the calm Mayu. As expected of Mayu, you actually think the same as me. Wuming smiled awkwardly. Chapter 144. In the middle of the night, Mayu returned to the Shoyu residence. Did something happen, Mayu? Wuming stood at the door and said to Mayu, who was in a sorry state. Mayu nodded, looking a little depressed. Wuming walked to Mayu, touched her head and said, It's okay, Big Brother is here. If you have any difficulties, Big Brother will help you solve them. Looking at Wuming's smiling face, Mayu also recovered some of her spirit, and then said, Brother Wuming, can you teach me how to fly? Of course, how about this? Tomorrow morning, I'll take you to learn how to fly, how about it? Out of trust in her brother, Mayu quickly nodded. After Mayu took a bath, because Wuming saw Mayu's disappointment, under Wuming's care, Mayu fell asleep. Wuming left the room, and gently closed the door. Are you really going to teach Miss Mayu how to fly, Master? Kalas complained. After all, although Wuming's talent is high, after all, the magic that Wuming knows is some high-level magic. Thinking back to when Wuming taught Gilgamesh, he guided and taught him, letting him awaken magic abilities on his own. It's not that he was unwilling to give the original 18 Lune to Gilgamesh, but Gilgamesh refused at that time. Wuming's face turned red, and he coughed awkwardly, then said, Ahem, there are many ways to let Mayu fly, but now is a good time to train Mayu. After all, Mayu can be said to be a genius no matter what she does. Are you saying that because Miss Mayu lost to Miss Ilya in flying magic, so she suffered a blow? Kalas asked. Wuming walked to the bedroom, pushed the door open, and continued. It's not considered a blow. After all, Mayu is a strong child. She just can't find a clue now and is confused. Mayu's strength is not like that of an ordinary little girl. Although Wuming's teaching in the past 5 years is also crucial, Mayu's strong character is cultivated by herself. In order not to drag my brothers down. This is what Mayu once said. How should I say it? Mayu is a little too much of a believer in science, causing some magic that requires imagination to be unable to be implemented. Just like flying, if a person subconsciously feels that they can't fly, then no matter what they can't succeed. Then what do you mean? Kalas asked. Let Mayu change to a way that she can accept. Anyway, Mayu's purpose is just to stay in the air. I see. Wuming lay down and put Kalas on the table. Actually, Kalas, you don't have to compliment me in disguise. Kalas did not speak. I don't believe that the purely auxiliary magic gift made by Gemwold Zelik doesn't have extraordinary wisdom. Wuming smiled. Don't think that I'm quite smart usually, in fact, I'm very afraid of using my brain. I know, although I said that I treat you as family, you must not be able to let it go. Kalas was silent. Suddenly being told that you have a fixed master, suddenly being told that you can't change your master, suddenly being told that you must obey your master's orders, suddenly being told that your freedom is forever limited. Wuming's tone began to become heavy. That must be quite painful. Kalas continued to be silent. So if you can please treat me as a real family, okay, Kalas? Wuming's tone changed, and said tenderly, I know, Master. Kalas replied. Then, I'll trouble you a lot in the future, Kalas. Yes. Kalas's voice contained unprecedented emotion. If Kalas was only loyal to her master like a counselor before, Then now she was treating him like family. If there was a gap between Wuming and Kalas before, then there was no gap between Kalas and Wuming now, just like Wuming and Mayu. It was both warm and comforting. After Wuming fell asleep, the golden dragon horn shone with a different light. Is this the feeling of love? The next day, both Wuming and Mayu woke up early. After eating the breakfast prepared by Wuming, Wuming brought Mayu to a barren land on Yuanzong Mountain through a portal. Let's do it here, Mayu. Wuming took a few steps forward and said, Okay. At this moment, Mayu had already changed into a magical girl's clothes. For some reason, Mayu was unwilling to transform in front of Wuming, just like how Ilya did not want to transform in front of others. It was just that Mayu was targeting Wuming alone. Then, Wuming tossed a pendant necklace to Mayu. It was a pendant with a single feather in the shape of a pendant. Brother Wuming, what's this? Mayu looked at Wuming in confusion. Wuming said, This is a magic tool that allows the wearer to fly. As long as the incantation is chanted, the necklace will allow the wearer to fly for an unlimited amount of time. Unlimited? Mayu was shocked. I'm afraid this tool can only be created with a magical domain. Mayu grabbed Sapphire and analyzed. The point is, as long as you wear this necklace, Mayu, you don't need to learn to fly. These words made Mayu and Sapphire stunned. But Mayu reacted and shook her head. Then she said, I don't want to rely on these external forces. I want to learn to fly by myself. Looking at Mayu's firm eyes, Wuming smiled. I knew you would say that. Then Wuming began to teach. Mayu, first of all, you have to know what your ultimate goal is. Wuming rarely showed a serious face and looked at Mayu seriously. The ultimate goal is to defeat Castor and recover the rank card, Mayu said. Wuming nodded and continued to ask, Why do you want to learn to fly? That's because you can't attack Castor without flying to a high altitude, Mayu said. So, why do you have to learn to fly? Wuming smiled, and his rare serious face was broken. Hey. Wuming's words made Mayu stunned. And then she thought of something, and her face turned red. Brother Wuming, thank you very much. Mayu bowed excitedly. Wuming knocked Mayu's little head and smiled. Little fool, we are a family, you don't need to thank me. Mayu smiled shyly. Then Wuming said, So you should know how to practice. Well, Brother Wuming has helped me a lot. I already know how to achieve the goal of defeating Castor. Mayu nodded. Then I'll go first, come on, Mayu. Wuming said and opened the portal. Well, Brother Wuming, goodbye. Mayu said goodbye to Wuming with a rosy face. I'm really looking forward to it, Mayu. Chapter 145. The next day at night, Ilya, Mayu, Rin Enbin, and Livia stood together near the Winterwood City Bridge. Then, only for today, let's temporarily join forces. Rin Enbin said. Oh, although I don't want to admit it, you monkey can really help a little. Livia said. The two once again confronted each other. Regarding the argument between the two, Ilya and others expressed that they were not interested. Great, Mayu, we can fight together. Ilya said to Mayu. Yeah. Mayu's face was red, and she was a little embarrassed. Yesterday, after Wuming left, when Mayu was practicing her method, Ilya appeared nearby. Wuming didn't know what happened between the two, but Mayu was very happy when she came home yesterday. Let's start. With Rin Enbin and Livia's orders, Ruby and Sapphire jointly launched the magic circle. The red and blue magic circle reflected each other, and the speed was much faster than before. When they escaped from Castor's mirror world, Ruby and Sapphire also jointly cast the magic circle. Otherwise, with the speed of their magic circle, they would have been intercepted by Castor. They disappeared in an instant. Wuming appeared again and looked at the scene of Mayu and Ilya just now. It seems that Mayu and Ilya's relationship is good. It should be like this. Mayu is very lacking in friendship. Wuming said lightly. So, do you still want to enter the mirror world, Master? Kalas asked, but she didn't move at all. Don't you know? Why are you still asking me? Wuming laughed. Knowing is knowing, you are still my master after all. Etiquette cannot be neglected. Kalas said, and then the golden green dragon horn moved. Kalas, who had untied the knot in her heart, had become the same as Ruby, Sapphire, and other similar creatures. She no longer stubbornly maintained her previous shape, and began to change her shape automatically. Let's go. Although I believe that Mayu and the others can overcome Caster Medea, this is the mirror world that is the fusion of two cards. Yes. Subsequently, light flashed beneath Wuming's feet as a magic array appeared and enveloped Wuming. Inside Caster's mirror world, Mayu and Ilya flew into the air, and kept rushing toward Caster's position in the air. Rin and Osaka and Livia, who stayed on the ground, could only watch helplessly. After all, not to mention whether their attacks could reach Caster's position or not, their magic might not work on Caster. In the air, Ilya looked at Mayu curiously. After all, Mayu was still unable to fly yesterday. She could only rely on magic to compress the pressure in the air, to form a temporary stable platform for her to jump, move, and so on. But in Ilya's eyes, Mayu didn't rely on these methods at the moment, but she was really flying. After dodging a magic cannon, Ilya, who was still in a daze, quickly cleared her mind and began to focus on the situation in front of her. Mayu constantly dodged the magic cannons made by Caster, and rushed toward Caster's position. Mayu looked at the necklace hanging on her neck, and remembered what Wuming said to Mayu last night when he entrusted the necklace to her. After Mayu came back from the exercise, Mayu rested for a while, and Wuming handed it over. Mayu, take this. Wuming took the single-piece wing-shaped pendant necklace and looked at Mayu. Brother Wuming, what is this? Mayu tilted her head and asked puzzledly. Wuming placed the necklace in Mayu's hand and said, tomorrow we'll have to fight with our lives on the line, so it's best to ensure that we can fly safely. This necklace is only a temporary loan to you, so remember to return it. Mayu had already put it on when she came to the Winterwood City Bridge. After all, this was brother's blessing. Mayu held the necklace tightly, and then rushed toward Caster even harder. Because the plan was for Ilya to attack and harass Mayu. Ilya was very close to Caster at the moment. Looking for the right time, Ilya held the ruby and began to gather magic. Scatter bullets, fire. With Ilya's clear voice, a large number of pink magic bullets were fired from the top of the ruby. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Mayu, who was close to Caster, took out Lancer's rank card. Rank card Lancer. Mayu, who was about to use Lancer's rank card, found that Caster suddenly disappeared in front of her. Teleportation. Then Mayu quickly activated the defense facility. Sapphire, convert all magic into physical protection and magic barrier. Yes, Master. At the moment when Sapphire completed the defense, as if there was a delay, a huge magic bullet hit Mayu. And Mayu fell on the Winterwood City Bridge in the mirror world, forming a lot of smoke. Mayu, Ilya, Rin Enbin, Livia, and the others were shocked. I was really careless. As expected of the Witch of Kanagami, teleportation is nothing. Ruby was distressed. Then Mayu walked out of the smoke. Mayu's body was not damaged at all. Her body exuded a little light, which was a sign that the defense facility was activated. Looking at the unscathed Mayu, Ilya and the others were relieved. And then Ilya rushed up again, acting as a bait. Mayu, on the other hand, was glad that he remembered what Wu Ming said yesterday. Mayu, you have to remember, the opponent is a magician of Kanagami. She may have super high-level magic like teleportation, so you must be very careful. Wu Ming was worried that Mayu would underestimate the enemy. Although it was a little strange why there was a delay, Mayu didn't have time to think about it. Looking at Ilya, who was still trying to harass Mayu, Mayu shook her head and quickly joined the battlefield. Wu Ming, who was in the shadow side. As expected of Mayu, she reacted in an instant. Collis complained. Isn't it because you used magic to interfere with Caster's casting speed? Wu Ming smiled awkwardly and then said, even without me, Mayu will be fine. Wu Ming was right. Even without Wu Ming's interference, even if the magic cannon hit Mayu, it would not cause any damage to Mayu, who had already activated her defense. The interference was just a subconscious behavior of Wu Ming, because he was worried about Mayu. In order to create the conditions for Mayu, Ilya poured her fantasy power into the ruby, and launched a large AoE scattershot attack. Taking advantage of the moment when Caster was delayed, Mayu immediately released the long-prepared bombardment. Maximum bombardment. Fire. A huge beam of light went straight to the ground. Several people were relieved in an instant. Just when several people were about to recover Castor's rank card, Castor, who they thought had been defeated, reappeared in the distant sky. Chapter 146. Looking at the somewhat embarrassed Castor, everyone panicked. Could it be? Did he use spatial teleportation to escape? Rin Enbin exclaimed in shock. Judging from the level of the magic array, the mirror world would definitely be destroyed. When Mayu saw that, she immediately rushed toward Castor. Wait! Mayu, come back quickly! Livia shouted. At this moment, Castor was too far away from them. Even Mayu, who was the closest to them, couldn't reach Castor before he released the magic array. Damn it, it's too late, Mayu said through gritted teeth. Mayu, stand on top. Suddenly, Ilya's voice came from behind. Mayu turned around and saw a huge pink magic ball. Mayu instantly understood Ilya's intention. The instant the mana ball arrived behind her, Mayu used her mana to create a platform and stood on it. The force of the magic ball pushed Mayu toward Castor. Rank card Lancer. Mio held the sapphire in one hand and the rank card in the other hand, and said while combining the two, Gaybolg. The scarlet spear penetrated the magic circle and penetrated Castor's chest. Mayu stood not far behind Castor and put away her spear. The three gigantic magic arrays collapsed, transforming into motes of mana that disappeared. Castor also turned into a Castor class card. Mayu picked up the fallen class card. Sapphire said, Class card Castor, recycling successful. Thank you for your hard work, Lady Mayu. Sapphire said with concern. Yes. Mayu didn't say much and simply nodded. Then, Mayu looked at Ilya who was flying toward her. Alicia Field is truly a miraculous person. I've never thought that I could use a magic ball to increase my speed. Mayu-sama, I think you and Lady Ilya are very compatible. You should contact Lady Ilya more. After all, the two of you are one. Sapphire said. Mayu nodded as if she agreed. At that moment, Rin Enbin and Livia, who were quarreling again, stopped. That's strange. Why hasn't the mirror world collapsed after so long? Rin Enbin asked. Livia also nodded, and then they looked at each other as if they thought of something. Could it be? Ta, ta, ta. There was a sound of steel touching the ground. Somewhere close to Rin Tasaka and Livia, a servant wrapped in black mana mist walked over. The black mist made it hard to see her face, but the magic sword in her hand was clearly reflected in the eyes of Rin Enbin and Livia. There was no doubt that it was the materialization of Saber's class card. Without any hesitation, Saber raised the sword that had accompanied her for her entire life in a fluid motion. A large amount of magic gathered, and then Saber swung her sword, and a powerful black magic shockwave shot toward Rin Enbin and Livia. Damn it. It's too late. Just when the two of them were in despair, a white mist appeared and offset the black magic shockwave. Heaven Age, resist God. Following the activation of the relic, the white mist rushed towards Saber. Saber quickly blocked with her sword, and the white mist turned into a dragon claw and hit it hard. Boom. Saber was repelled. And then Wuming appeared from the white mist. Looking at the man with blonde hair and a white robe, the two of them asked, Who are you? Rin Enbin and Livia asked. After all, they didn't know Wuming. Zelik told you about me, right? Wuming turned his head and looked at the two of them with his golden pupils and said. The two of them quickly reacted. Are you the hero spirit that Master said will help us? Rin Enbin exclaimed. But, why did you only appear now? Livia said with some suspicion. The two of them had been in Winterwood City for almost 4 days, but Wuming never contacted them, so it was inevitable that they would be suspected. That's because I don't have to come out at all, but the current situation is not something you can handle, so I came out. After all, Zelik only asked Wuming to take care of the magician who came to collect the class card, not to help them all the time. With that said, Rin Enbin and Livia felt relieved. Zelik did say that the hero spirit in Winterwood City wouldn't help them all the time, and would only take care of them a little. In addition, The two of them were people who didn't like to admit defeat, which was why Rin Enbin and Livia didn't directly look for Wuming when they came to Winterwood City. Alright, the current enemy isn't something you can handle. Leave the rest to me. Wuming wasn't bragging. If Ruby and Sapphire were still in the hands of Rin Enbin and Livia, they might be able to contend with Saber. But now Ruby and Sapphire had recognized Ilya and Mayu as their masters. With Ilya and Mayu's current strength, they were far from being able to deal with Saber. After all, she was someone Wuming knew. No, it should be said that Wuming taught her before. Wuming looked at Saber, who walked out of the smoke unscathed, and said lightly, "I actually want to fight you. I don't know if this is a curse or Toria." As if Saber heard him, her figure paused for a moment, and then continued to walk toward Wuming. After all, the servant transformed by the class card only had instincts and didn't have the slightest consciousness. Being able to pause for a moment was considered as being affected by the subconscious mind. And Wuming didn't treat Saber as the real Artoria. She was just a magical amalgamation with Artoria's appearance and ability. Saber raised the blackened holy sword in her hand and pointed it at Wuming. Wuming also took out the holy lance, mythical Yggdrasil. Since magic reduces the damage of the class card transformed into a servant, then let's directly determine the winner with brute force. Finished speaking, Wuming rushed up with a vigorous stride. Saber didn't want to be outdone, and followed up with her sword. Bang, 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 bang. The sound of weapons colliding with each other was constantly heard. Wuming and Saber kept changing their positions. In order to avoid affecting Rin Enbin and Livia behind him, Wuming deliberately led Saber away from here and to the river. On the shore, Rin and Osaka and Livia fell silent as they watched the chaotic battle between the two of them. Indeed, Saber's ability was not something that the two of them could defeat. Not to mention, magic would reduce the damage of Saber, who had magic skills, even more. At this time, Mayu and Ilya, who were attracted by the fire, landed on the ground. Brother Wuming. Chapter 147. Brother Wuming? Mayu was surprised. Why is Big Brother here? Ilya asked in confusion. Do you know this heroic spirit? Rin Enbin asked in surprise. What the hell is going on here? Livia was confused as well. That's Mayu's older brother. He stayed at our house for a while, Ilya said. He's Mayu's older brother? Rin Enbin and Livia asked in confusion. Rin Enbin found it strange that the big brother Ilya always talked about was actually a heroic spirit. Livia also found it strange that Mayu's older brother was a heroic spirit. Speaking of which, was the heroic spirit's daily life so unbelievable? Although his hair color is different from the usual big brother, this is indeed Big Brother, Ilya said. Although Ilya had never seen Wuming in this form, she knew that Wuming wasn't an ordinary person. However, she was still worried about Wuming. After all, from what she knew, Wuming was only a mysterious magician. That's incredible. Mayu's older brother is actually a heroic spirit, Rin Enbin said while rubbing his chin. Big Brother is a heroic spirit? Ilya asked. It seems like Ilya doesn't know anything. Rin Enbin and Livia thought. Everyone looked at Mayu, but Mayu didn't say anything. She only watched the battle between Wuming and Saber. Then Ilya said, Then, Sister Rin, aren't we going to help Big Brother? Rin Enbin said, How can we help? That's a battle between superior heroic spirits. Even if you have the protection of Ruby and Sapphire, you'll only be heavily injured if you get involved. Rin Enbin's expression was grave. Based on the battle between the two heroic spirits, Rin Enbin, who had some martial arts experience, clearly sensed that both sides weren't simple heroic spirits. Even Livia had noticed that both sides were not simple. Rin Enbin is right. All we can do now is watch from the sidelines and pray that Mayu's brother can defeat his opponent, Livia said. Afterward, Ilya stopped talking and watched the battle between Wuming and Saber worriedly with everyone else. Right at that moment, the two of them separated and stood facing each other. Saber raised her black longsword, and a black light began to gather around the blade. Could that be a relic? Rin Enbin panicked. Quick! Mayu, Ilya, we feel like we're far away from here. Livia said to the two magical girls who were still watching the battle. Is that a precious artifact? Ilya said. That's right, Ilya. Through the detection of the magic power in the atmosphere, Saber's noble artifact has at least reached the A rank. It can instantly break through my and Xiaolan's defense. In order to avoid being affected, I feel that it's better for us to quickly leave. It was rare for Ruby to become serious. From this, it could be seen how powerful Saber's noble artifact was. Mayu-sama, let's quickly leave too. If we stay here, we'll just be a burden to my brother, Sapphire said. Because she met Wuming every day, Sapphire had a good impression of Wuming. Afterward, Wuming requested her to call him her brother. I understand, Mayu said. At that moment, Wuming's voice was heard. She's about to use her noble artifact. Let's quickly leave this place. The four of them quickly ran into the distance. The scene changed. On the other side, it was the battle between Wuming and Saber. As it was on the surface of the lake, their battle did not cause much damage to the surroundings. With a feint, Wuming used a Lune rune to avoid water, and stood on the surface of the water, looking at Saber. As expected of the best Saber class, plus it's because of you, she's even more difficult to deal with. Wuming said. Due to the ample supply of mana, the underground spiritual vein, Saber continued to release mana, and the black mana mist continued to accompany Saber. Even in close combat, Wuming could only have a slight advantage. At that moment, Saber, who agreed with Wuming's words, raised her holy sword, and the light of darkness began to gather. Sure enough, noble artifact is the key to victory. Then, Wuming waved his hand and shouted at Mayu and the others standing on the shore. She's about to use her noble artifact. Let's quickly leave this place. Rin and Osaka and Livia, who had already seen it, began to pull Ilya and Mayu away. After seeing that there were no signs of life around, Wuming also directly activated his noble artifact. My Yggdrasil. The white holy spear turned into a liquid, wrapped Wuming's right hand, and formed a metal-colored arm guard. Wuming's right hand was attached to the water, and a huge amount of mana began to gather around him, and then, it exploded in an instant. It seemed like a long time had passed, but in fact, only a few breaths passed, and Saber's black holy sword also gathered the light. Excalibur, Excalibur. Saber's demonic words came out of her mouth, accompanied by a huge black light curtain. In contrast, the huge holy tree was growing wildly. The holy tree's branches frantically emerged from the water, constantly hitting the black light curtain. The black light curtain constantly destroyed the vines and branches, and rushed toward Wuming's location. Mayu and the others, who had almost retreated to a safe area, looked at the huge vines behind them colliding with the black light curtain, and couldn't help but worry. The black light curtain was gradually approaching Wuming. Even if the vines grew quite fast, it seemed a little difficult in front of the black light curtain. However, Wuming would not confront the holy sword head-on. A large number of vines emerged from the water around Saber in an instant, and in just an instant, they broke through Saber's magical fog and entangled Saber. As if it lost its source, the black light curtain instantly shattered, and countless huge vines rushed toward Saber's direction. In an instant, the river in Winterwood City was covered by green vines. After noticing that Saber had become a class card, Wuming stood up. Sure enough, even if it has Artoria's power, it's still just a mana block. Just like Wuming, at this moment, Wuming's body was also made of class cards, but Wuming had consciousness. This was the difference between Wuming and other servants formed by class cards. Controlling the vines to move Saber's class card back, Wuming held it in his hand. Wuming walked to the shore, looked at Mayu and the others coming toward him, smiled and waved. Looking at the few people who wanted to say something, Wuming said directly, "Anyway, let's get out of here first." Then Kalas, who was on top of Wuming's head, said, "Magic circle, open." With simple words, a huge magic circle appeared under Wuming's and the others' feet, and with a flash of light, they disappeared from the mirror world. Chapter 148. After the mirror world collapsed, Wuming and the others appeared near the Winterwood City Bridge in the outside world. "It's amazing," When did the master make magic attire again? Ruby looked at the golden green dragon horn on Wu Ming's head and asked. Sorry, unknown kindred, big sister was a little rude. Sapphire bowed and said apologetically. Golden green flew down from Wu Ming's head and said to the two wands. It's okay, my name is Golden Green Kalispell. It's a support magic attire specially made by Master Zelik for Master. Please take care of me. Then the dragon horn on the head made a human-like bow. Also it's Goldie, I'm Ruby. This is my sister Sapphire Cephia. Please take care of me. Ruby said. Big sister has troubled you, please take care of me. Sapphire said. Taking advantage of the three artificial elves' conversation, Wu Ming also began to talk. Mayu looked at Wu Ming with a puzzled expression and said. Why? Why is brother Wu Ming here? Looking at Mayu's puzzled expression, Wu Ming touched Mayu's head. Just think of me as a stupid big brother who wants you to grow but is worried about you. Sorry, Mayu. Wu Ming said apologetically. No, brother Wu Ming. You don't have to apologize. If it wasn't for you this time, we might have all been killed in the mirror world. Mayu shook her head and said. Mayu didn't mean to blame Wu Ming. Rather, Mayu was secretly happy. Wu Ming worried about her meant that Wu Ming cared about her, which made Mayu happy. That big brother. What about me? Ilya asked weakly with a red face. Wu Ming smiled and patted Ilya's head. Of course I care about you too. Ilya and Mayu are my younger sisters. How can an elder brother not care for his younger sisters? Wu Ming's words made Ilya somewhat happy, and she smiled sweetly. Speaking of which, Rin and Osaka said, that class card hasn't been assigned yet. Rin Enbin looked at Wu Ming with a fawning expression. You barbaric monkey. Why would the Honorable Lord Heroic Spirit give you a class card? Livia taunted. Damn it. Can't you just keep your mouth shut? Haven't you been tired enough from this battle? Rin Enbin glared at Livia, his face filled with displeasure. Both Ilya and Mayu had helpless expressions. After all, neither of them would have any objections if the class card was given to Ilya or Mayu. Compared to Rin Enbin and Livia who didn't like each other, Ilya and Mayu's relationship was quite good. Wu Ming then remembered that he still had the class card in his hand. Wu Ming looked at the saber class card, then at Rin Enbin and Livia, then at Ilya and Mayu. Then Wu Ming made a decision. Then let's use the simplest rock-paper-scissors game to decide who to give this class card to. Huh. Rin Enbin let out a strange cry. Livia also frowned. It seemed that the two of them couldn't accept this method. I think this method is not bad. Ilya touched her small face and looked at Rin Enbin and Livia cautiously. In the end, Rin Enbin and Livia sighed and sent out Ilya and Mayu to decide the winner of the class card. It was a best-of-3 game. In the end, under Rin Enbin's smug expression and Livia's resentful expression, Ilya defeated Mayu with a score of 3-2 and received the saber class card. Ilya carefully put away the job class card. No matter what, this class card was given to her by her big brother. She had to keep it well. Although she didn't care who the class card belonged to, seeing Ilya's happy expression after receiving the class card, Mayu was a bit jealous. At this time Wu Ming patted Mayu's head and said, When we go back, I'll make you omelette rice. Wu Ming's gentle voice sounded. Mayu blushed and nodded. Although we still have a lot of questions, it's already very late. Let's wait until tomorrow to ask, Rin Enbin said. A wise decision. Then come to my house tomorrow, Wu Ming said. After discussing, Rin Enbin and Livia left first. Wu Ming, Mayu, and Ilya stayed behind. That was what Rin Enbin and Livia said. Aren't you Ilya's big brother? Then I'll have to trouble you to send her home. You're Mayu's big brother. I have something to do so I'll leave first. Remember to send Mayu home safely. Wu Ming felt helpless but he didn't dislike it. As Tuskahar said, she didn't dislike straightforward people, and Wu Ming was the same. The fact that they could treat him with a normal attitude after knowing that he was a servant of a hero spirit's clone was enough to show their temperament. Wu Ming recalled Kalis and put Kalis back on Wu Ming's head. The ruby and sapphire returned to Ilya and Mayu's hands. Let's go, Ilya. Mayu and I will send you home. Wu Ming held Mayu and Ilya's hands and began to walk toward Ilya's house. Wu Ming didn't like to use the portal anymore. Now he liked to walk and enjoy everything around him. Unless there was an emergency or something important, Wuming wouldn't open the portal. On the way, Ilya carefully held Wuming's hand. I feel that Big Brother is warmer than Big Brother's hand. Ilya couldn't help but compare Shiro Amiya and Wuming and put the scales on Wuming's side. Wuming, who didn't have the ability to read minds, naturally didn't know what Ilya was thinking. However, that didn't prevent Wuming from seeing Ilya's restraint. Then Wuming spoke. Ilya, how do you feel today? What do you mean, how do I feel? Ilya reacted and asked in a panic. Wuming smiled lightly. The cooperation with Mayu, the blow that killed Castor, was quite good. Speaking of this matter, Mayu reacted. Mayu asked, why did Ilya choose that way? Then Ilya smiled and said, because I believe in Mayu. Mayu froze for a moment, then her face turned red. You guys still have a lot of difficulties to go through. You should know that we've only recovered 5 class cards. What's left is the most secretive assassin class card, and the most violent berserker. Don't be careless. Silent reminded. Big Brother is right, Sapphire said. Today, if it weren't for Big Brother here, we would probably all be killed in the mirror world. Hobbit's really lucky. Speaking of which, Mayo's brother is really strong. He can even defeat Saber. Ruby flew beside Wuming and said. It can only be said that the other party only has a mana block. It doesn't take much effort to deal with this kind of thing. If it really is a servant, the outcome is not certain. Wuming explained. Speaking of which, Ilya began to ask, where did Big Brother and Mayu live before? When this sentence came out, Mayo's expression became nostalgic. Chapter 149. After Ilya said those words, the atmosphere changed. How should she put it? The atmosphere at the scene gave Ilya the feeling that she had said something wrong. At that moment Wuming said, Ilya, I won't answer this question. If there's a chance, you don't need to know this now. Ilya nodded as if she understood. After sending Ilya home, in order to avoid being discovered by her family, Wuming directly opened the teleportation door. Then, after saying goodbye to Ilya, Wuming directly brought Mayu back to the Shoyu mansion through the teleportation door. Seeing that Mayu was not calm, Wuming directly opened the teleportation door. It's okay, Mayu. I'll take care of everything. Wuming comforted Mayu. No, brother Wuming, let us take care of it together. I have the ability now. Mayu looked at Wuming with a determined face. Wuming was stunned, then smiled. Stroking Mayu's head, Wuming said, I know. Go to sleep first. Collect the class cards first, then think about other things. After that, I'll collect the class cards with you. Mayu nodded obediently. After Mayu fell asleep, Wuming came out of the house. Then, Master, are you going to collect the class cards? Kalas asked as the golden-green dragon horn flashed. There are only 2 class cards left. Apart from Assassin Mayu and Ilya, they can't deal with Berserker. Wuming continued. They were almost wiped out when facing Saber, not to mention Berserker, who sacrificed his rationality greatly increased. Then do you need to train Mayu and Ilya? Kalas asked. Wuming thought for a moment, then said, you can do a small amount of training first, and then do a large amount of special training after you collect all the rank cards. Yes, Master. Wuming sat in the courtyard, looked at the moon, and fell into deep thought. The next day, after Wuming sent Mayu to school, Wuming took advantage of the time when he was back, and went to a coffee shop. Walking into the coffee shop, Wuming ordered a cup of coffee. As if he was waiting for someone, Wuming sat down and drank leisurely. A moment later, Rin Enbin ran in panting. Rin and Osaka ordered a cup of coffee and sat down. Phew. I'm not late, am I? Rin Enbin said. Because he ran over, his face was very red. Wuming shook his head and smiled. It doesn't matter if I'm late. After all, I have plenty of time. At this time, Livia casually walked into the coffee shop, elegantly ordered a cup of coffee, walked to Rin Enbin's side, sat down and drank leisurely. Although the two of them didn't like each other, they were facing a heroic spirit. When they had a common goal, the two of them could still work together. The two of them calmed down and looked at Wuming. Okay, now it's time to talk about your problem, Rin Enbin said. I have a rank card, Wuming suddenly said. What? Rin Enbin and Livia exclaimed in shock. The sudden voice caused everyone in the coffee shop to look over. Rin Enbin and Livia looked at the others with an apologetic smile. Then, Rin Enbin and Livia calmed down and looked at Wuming again. You have a rank card? What's going on? Livia asked. Yes, aren't there only 7 rank cards? Now Leyline shows that there are 2 remaining cards that haven't been recycled. Rin Enbin also asked. Wuming calmly took a sip of coffee then said, there are more than 7 rank cards, and I have a self-conscious rank card. Before you came to Winterwood City, the previous rank card recycler entered my mirror world and wanted to recycle me, but she didn't succeed. After that, I reached an agreement with Zelik, and I stayed in Winterwood City. Although Wuming said his origin, Wuming hid a lot of things. So, can you tell us what your rank is? Rin Enbin asked, but he seemed to be very careful. After all, this was also considered as information gathering. Caster, Wuming said directly without hesitation. Caster. Rin Enbin and Livia repeated in a strange way. Rin Enbin and Livia thought that Wuming was a lancer. After all, last night, Wuming used a white spear to fight against Saber, who was known as the best rank, and he slightly suppressed Saber. Such an existence turned out to be a caster. I don't need to hide it from you. The reason why I hid it from the Magic Association is that I hate trouble. Wuming said. Rin Enbin and Livia weren't stupid enough to ask. Aren't you afraid that we will spread your existence? The other party was a heroic spirit's clone servant, and he was also a caster who was good at magic. The two of them didn't think that someone who could fight against Saber didn't know magic. Moreover, the other party was a caster. Maybe his magic was better than his martial arts. I won't ask about the matter between you and Meiyu. I just want to know if you can really love Meiyu. Livia asked. Wuming smiled at this, as if he was ridiculing her, but also as if he was helpless. If even I don't love Meiyu, then no one in this world will love her. Is that so? I understand. Livia heard the feelings in Wuming's words, which wasn't something that a hypocrite like him could say. Then, Rin Enbin also began to ask. I won't ask about your relationship with Ilya. I just want to know if you will continue to help us recover the rank cards. Rin Enbin said. Of course, the next 2 rank cards are a bit too disadvantageous for you. I will be responsible for assisting you. Wuming replied. Indeed, Assassin and Berserker are indeed very disadvantageous for us now. Livia analyzed. Assassin who specializes in assassination. Berserker who sacrifices his rationality to increase his attributes. Oh, why are these servants so difficult to deal with? Rin Enbin complained. Moreover, the mirror world will shrink due to the continuous recovery of rank cards. If Berserker is the last to be recovered, then the mirror world is likely to become abnormally narrow. If Assassin is the last to be recovered, then it will be advantageous. Then that's it for now. I will find time to train Meiyu and Ilya. After drinking the last sip of coffee, Wuming left the coffee shop. Livia also finished her coffee, put down the cup, and then very elegantly said to Rin Enbin. Then I will also leave first, Rin Enbin. I don't want to continue to see your face. Rin Enbin angrily looked at Livia leaving the coffee shop, regardless of the temperature of the coffee, and finished it in one gulp. Really, do I like to see your face that much? Rin Enbin said. Waiter, the bill. Rin Enbin said. Hello, this is the bill for the 3 of you, please take a look. The waiter handed a bill to Rin Enbin. Then Rin Enbin's expression was painful as he paid the bill. Chapter 150. In the afternoon, Wuming arrived at the entrance of Sui Kun Garden Academy's primary school and waited quietly. There were parents, older brothers, and sisters all around waiting for school to end. After waiting for a while, the bell rang, and the originally quiet school became lively. Primary school students walked out one after another. After waiting for a while, Meiyu and Ilya walked out. As Wuming had told Meiyu to bring Ilya over after school, Ilya, who originally wasn't going the same way as Meiyu, walked together with Meiyu. Brother Wuming, Mayu called out to Wuming and quickened her pace. Big brother. Ilya waved her hand and also quickened her pace. Mayu, Ilya, how was it? Did you have fun today? Wuming crouched down and asked the two. Amen. I had a home economics class today. I specially prepared a cake for brother Wuming. Mayu said as she raised the small box in her hand and showed it to Wuming. Then I have to give it a good try. Mayu's cooking will definitely be very delicious, Wuming said with a smile. Ilya was not to be outdone. She raised the box in her hand and said, I also made it. Although it might not look as good as Mayu's, the taste won't be bad either. Seeing Ilya's flushed face due to excitement, Wuming and Mayu couldn't help but smile. Then Ilya, did you have a good class? Wuming asked. Hey, I fell asleep in class today. It was Mayu who woke me up. Ilya rubbed her head in embarrassment and said with a smile. Wuming stroked Ilya's head and said gently, it's a little too much for Ilya to sleep after midnight. It's normal to sleep during the day, but you can't fall behind in your homework. However, the two of them didn't notice that there were 4 people watching the conversation between Wuming, Mayu, and Ilya in a corner not far behind them. As expected, Ilya and Mayu's abnormal behavior today is because of that handsome guy. A mature girl with green pigtails, Kurihara Narika, said. That might be Mayu's older brother. I've never heard of Ilya having an older brother like that, Kei-hwa. The girl with short black hair, Gue-mimi, said. But there's no way to explain Ilya's abnormality. Beautiful. The pink twin-tailed Nana Moriyama squinted her eyes and said, speaking of which, why are we hiding here? Can't we just go over and say hello? You Jinza Longzi, the energetic girl with yellow hair and 2 buns, idiot, said. Kurihara Yorahana punched Yujinza Ryuko. Oh, it hurts. What are you doing, Kei-hwa? Yujinza Ryuko said with tears in his eyes as he held his head. You idiot, we're here to follow Ilya and Mayu. How can we show ourselves? That's right. Also, we're following them for Ilya and Mayu's happiness, Nana Moriyama said. However, they didn't know that Wuming had already discovered them. Mayu, Ilya, those over there are your classmates, right? Wuming faintly pointed at the corner where the 4 of them were hiding. Ilya and Mayu turned to look. As expected, it was their classmates. It's them. Mayu said in surprise. It's Ryuko and the others. Then, Ilya waved her hand and shouted at the people hiding in the corner. Now it was awkward. The 3 of them walked out in embarrassment. Only Yujinza Ryuko casually greeted Mayu and Ilya. Yo, Ilya, Mayu. Then Ilya asked in confusion. What are you doing hiding there? Where? Yujinza Ryuko was about to tell the truth when Kurihara Yorahana and the others covered his mouth. We're playing a game with others, Nana Moriyama said with a smile. Yes. Playing a game. Kurihara Yorahana and Gue-mimi agreed. Although she was still curious about their behavior, Ilya didn't pursue it too much. As for Mayu, when they were discovered by Wuming, she had already seen through their intentions. By the way, is this Mayu's brother? The gentle Gue-mimi asked. Just as Ilya was about to introduce Wuming, Wuming spoke first. You're Mayu and Ilya's friends, right? I'm Mayu's brother, Shup Yu Wuming. Thank you for your hard work. If there's anything wrong with my sister, please forgive her, Wuming said with unusual gentleness. So gentle. Kurihara Yorahana, Nana Moriyama, and Gue-mimi exclaimed. So cool. Yujinza Ryuko said with starry eyes. Only the heavens knew why she thought that the gentle Wuming was cool. Kurihara Yorahana pressed Yujinza Ryuko down and looked at Wuming apologetically. Are you going home? If you don't mind, let's go together. Wuming's smiling face struck the few of them, causing those who originally wanted to refuse to nod their heads as if they were possessed by gods and gods. Wuming had told Sila in advance yesterday that he wanted to bring Ilya to stay at his house for a night and accompany Mayu. Hence, Ilya, Wuming, and Mayu walked on the road to the Shoyu mansion. Coincidentally, the 4 of their houses could be reached from this road. Hence, the following situation was created. Wuming held Mayu's hand while Ilya followed beside him. Yujinza Ryuko and the other 3 followed behind them. Ilya kept chatting with Wuming. Mayu would say something from time to time. Gradually, the 4 people behind Wuming stopped talking and looked at this scene. After a few minutes, Nana Moriyama said, "By the way, what's the relationship between Ilya and Brother Wuming?" "Huh? My relationship with Big Brother?" The sudden question stunned Ilya. She stopped, and the others also stopped. Wuming replied, "Actually, Ilya's adoptive brother Shiro Amiya and I are adoptive brothers." "Oh, isn't that Big Brother's big brother?" Yujienza Ryuko shouted. "He is both Mayo's big brother and Ilya's big brother. What a strange relationship." Kurihara Takika pushed up her glasses and said, It can be considered so," Ilya said somewhat unnaturally. "Then, does Ilya like Big Brother more or Big Brother's big brother more?" Nana Moriyama still had a smile on her face, but Wuming seemed to see the word conspiracy on her face. "Huh? AI. Ilya shouted in panic, her face instantly turning red. "You and Brother Wuming are so happy. Could it be that Ilya has fallen in love with Big Brother's big brother, and Mayo's big brother?" Ilya's face instantly turned red. Her eyes turned into circles and she fainted. "Ilya!" Everyone's exclamation reached the sky. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.